Oregon City Public Library, and today I will be sharing the story of the 12 Dancing Princesses, or The Shoes That Were Danced to Pieces, by the Brothers Grimm. And this was a final edition that was published in 1857, Children and Household Tales. The Shoes That Were Danced to Pieces. Once upon a time, there was a king who had 12 daughters, and each one was more beautiful than the others. They slept together in one room where their beds stood next to each other. At night, when they were lying there, the king closed their door and barred it. However, when he opened it the next morning, he saw that their shoes had been danced to pieces. No one could determine how it happened. Then the king proclaimed that whoever could discover where they went dancing each night could choose one of them for his wife and become king after his death. However, anyone who attempted this but failed to make the discovery after 3 days and nights would forfeit his life. A prince soon presented himself, offering to undertake the venture. He was well received, and that evening was taken to a room adjacent to the bedroom. A bed was made for him there, and he was told to watch where they went and danced, so they would not be able to do anything in secret or go to some other place. The door to their room was left open. However, the prince's eyes felt as heavy as lead, and he fell asleep. And when he woke up the next morning, the 12 had danced, for their shoes all had holes in the sole. The same thing happened the second night and the third night, and his head was chopped off without mercy. Many others came to try this risky venture, but they too all lost their lives. Now it happened that a poor soldier who was wounded and could no longer serve in the army was making his way to the city where the king lived. An old woman met him and asked him where he was going. "I'm not exactly sure myself," he said, then joking added, "But I would like to discover where the princesses are going to dance and why their shoes are in pieces and then become king." "That is not so difficult," said the old woman. "Do not drink the wine that they offer you." Then she gave him a cloak and said, "When you put this on, you will become invisible, and you can follow the 12. Receiving this good advice, the soldier became serious, took heart, went to the king, and announced himself as a suitor. He, like the others, was well received, and was given royal clothes to wear. That evening at bedtime, he was escorted to the anteroom. Just as he was going to bed, the oldest princess brought him a goblet of wine. However, he tied a sponge beneath his chin and let the wine run into it, drinking not a single drop for himself. He lay down after a little while, began to snore as if he were in a deepest sleep, and the 12 princesses heard him and laughed. The oldest one said he could have spared his life as well. They got up, opened their wardrobe chest and closet, took out their best clothing, and made themselves beautiful in front of their mirrors, all the time jumping about in anticipation of the dance. Only the youngest one said, "I'm not sure. You are all very happy, but I'm afraid that something bad is going to happen." "You snow goose," said the oldest one. "You are always afraid. Have you forgotten how many princes have been here for nothing? I wouldn't even have to give this soldier a sleeping potion. He would never have woken up." When they were ready, they first approached the soldier, but he did not move at all. And as soon as they thought it was safe, the oldest one went to her bed, knocked on it. It immediately began to sink into the floor, and they all climbed down through the opening, one after the other, the oldest one leading the way, and the soldier saw everything, and without hesitation followed by putting on his cloak. Halfway down the stairs, he stepped on her dress. Frightened, she called out, "Who's there? Who's holding my dress?" "Don't be silly," the oldest one said. "You just caught yourself on a hook." They continued until they came to a magnificent walkway between rows of trees. Their leaves were all made of silver, and they shone and glistened. The soldier thought to himself, "You better take some proof." So he broke off a twig. A loud crack came from the tree, and the youngest one called out again, "It's not right. Didn't you hear that sound?" The oldest one said, "That is a joyful salute that they are firing, because soon we will have disenchanted our princes." Then they came to a walkway where the trees were all made of gold, and finally to a third one where they were all made of clear diamonds. He broke a twig from each of these. Cracking sounds frightened the youngest one each time, but the oldest one insisted that it was only the sound of joyful salutes. They continued on until they came to a large body of water. 12 boats were there, and in each boat there sat a handsome prince waiting for them. Each prince took a princess into his boat. The soldier sat next to the youngest, and her prince said, "I don't know why the boat is so much heavier today. I have to row with all my strength in order to make it go." It must be the warm weather," the youngest princess said. "It's too hot for me as well." On the other side of the water, there was a beautiful, brilliantly illuminated castle. Joyful music, kettle drums, and trumpets sounded forth, and they rode over and went inside. Each prince danced with the princesses. The invisible soldier danced along as well, and whenever a princess held up a goblet of wine, he drank it empty as she lifted it to her mouth. And this frightened the youngest one, but the oldest one silenced her every time. They danced there until 3 o'clock in the morning, when their shoes were danced to pieces, and they had to stop. The princes rowed them back across the water. This time the soldier took a seat next to the oldest princess in the lead boat. They took leave from their princes on the bank and promised to come back the next night. When they were on the steps, the soldier ran ahead and got into bed. When the 12 tired princesses came in slowly, he was again snoring so loudly they could all hear him. "We are safe from him," they said. Then they took off their beautiful clothes and put them away, placed their worn-out shoes under their bed, and went to bed. The next morning, the soldier said nothing, for he wanted to see this amazing sight one more time. He went along the second night, and the third night, and everything happened as before. Each time they danced until their shoes were in pieces, and the third time he also took a goblet as a piece of evidence. The hour came when he was to give his answer, and he brought the 3 twigs and the goblet before the king. The 12 princesses stood behind the door and listened to what he had to say, and the king asked, "Where do my daughters dance their shoes to pieces?" He answered, "In an underground castle with 12 princes." Then he told the whole story and brought forth the pieces of evidence. The king summoned his daughters and asked them if the soldier had told the truth. Seeing that they had been betrayed and that their denials did no good, they had to admit everything. Then the king asked him which one he wanted for his wife, and he answered, "I myself am not young, so please give me the oldest." Their wedding day was held the same day, and the kingdom was promised to him following the king's death, but the princes had as many days added to their curse as they had spent nights dancing with the 12 princes. That end. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next week for another story.